When we look at the energetics of the law and protecting our businesses, I think there's no bigger gift than to have an attorney who knows the law and who knows the energetics as well, who can read all of the layers of the multidimensional nature of a business and of a contract and so on.
What I tell clients is like, you may find a better fit, but make sure they know and actually care about what you do for your business. If they do not understand your business, there's no way they can see the hidden corners of how to protect it, of the things that could be at risk to you. So there should never be shame. There should never be talking down to you. Whatever professionals you're working with should really care, and you should be safe to be open about what you do.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sheology. I'm your host, Dr. Robyn McKay. And today I have a very special guest with me. Sarah Gilliland is here with me. She is a trademark attorney who works with female entrepreneurs to help them protect their brands and their intellectual and creative work. That may come up in our conversation today, but I have her here for a different reason, because she sat next to me at a dinner that we had recently, and I loved it, and I loved our conversation, so I wanted to have you back on and introduce you to the Sheology world.
Yeah, the feeling's mutual. I was so excited for our next opportunity to get together and talk, and when I was invited for this to be the setting, it was instant yes.
I mean, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the fact that a couple of weeks ago, I released a podcast episode where I said it is time for the experts to come out of the spiritual closet.
Yeah.
It's time for us to say who we are, to own our intuition, our energy gifts, all of the woo, to own the woo publicly. And that came on the heels of meeting you and you having your own experience with just taken a yoga class as an attorney in the South. So can you just take us back to kind of what started this all for you in terms of your own spiritual explorations and how the effect of you being an attorney kind of played into your journey?
Yeah, I was raised in the South, raised big megachurch evangelical in the South, and that came with a lot of restrictions, a lot of definitions, a lot of shame on if you believe, think anything outside of this very narrow set. And I'm always careful to say that was my experience, because I'm sure there's anybody that's done that they don't feel like that was their experience. That's fine. This is mine. And that's what I internalized very much. And
so like, what would have been like out of the box for you in terms of your upbringing?
Well, there was a period of time we weren't even permitted to like listen to FM radio or watch cable television. Halloween that we just finished, absolute no-go, devil. In reflection, my opinion is anything that took your mind's dependence, your life's dependence off of the church and paying the church to be there and funding that, anything that could be a distraction from that was an absolute no.
Okay.
And not only was it a no, you were wrong, you were shameful, you're definitely going to burn in hell. Really bad things would come of that. So don't question, don't ask questions. You follow us and do what we say. That's how you'll be right. And so there was a lot of, there was a school associated with the church that we went to. They would set up security at secular concerts if any kids were caught going to like, Backstreet Boys or anything satanic like that.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, this is interesting because, my background in psychology is with gifted and talented girls.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I know for sure about us is that we're always curious. Like, well, I was raised Catholic, but when I was in junior high, I used to go into the library and sneak read books on witchcraft. Like I'd sit back in the stacks and like read. I don't think that my mom even knew I was doing that, but I knew I had to be secret about that.
Yeah.
But I was so curious about it. We have this avid curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you navigate that? Because I know you're a smart girl. So.
And yeah, I was an alpha. Alpha was the gifted
alpha?
and talented
Okay.
at my elementary school. Yep. But still within these constraints, not so much religious or spiritual, but in the sense that, yes, the curiosity, the wondering, the the why. But I did at one point, I told my teacher that I wanted to be a marine biologist. And she said, oh no, honey, there are no oceans in Oklahoma. And that's as ridiculous as that sounds, that is a really great illustration of how that mind frame, even among adults, worked. You fit in this, and anything outside literally doesn't exist.
So let's flash forward. You're a Big 12 girl like me. Kansas is still better.
Fair. I don't care that much.
Whatever. I know you don't. I know.
About my college is what I mean. I don't mean I don't care about it.
I don't care either. It's just a joke.
Yeah.
But let's go to, so then you go to law school because that makes sense. If you're coming from a legalistic background religiously and everybody goes in the box, I've said in our generation, you know, we could be anything we wanted to be as long as it was a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. You know, those were kind of the big three.
Yeah.
So.
And that more came, I decided the lawyer thing sort of on my own with influence. I saw a meme recently that was somebody saying, as a little girl, people always told me I should be a lawyer, and what a fun way to call a child a bitch. I related to that so much because the you should be a lawyer feedback was always in response to me questioning, asking, seeking different answers. I was like, yeah, I think that wasn't a compliment every time I heard that. But
I think it's a high compliment.
And what a fun way to call.
Yeah.
Going then law school in a very different way is still very constraining. You think this way, you explore this way. This is how you find answers. Everything's defined. Anything outside, wrong. And I, more so than ever, I loved being against the grain, but in that role as an attorney, I think growing up poor, not really having anybody else in that world, I desperately wanted to do that right and be what it looked like I was probably supposed to be in that role.
Yeah.
And I leaned into that pretty heavily to my own detriment.
So what we're really looking at today is what happens when a personal awakening crashes into a professional system.
Yeah.
So this was our dinner table conversation. Yeah. I really wish that we would have had
just
cameras
mics
on us.
Right there. Yeah.
We would have been mic'd up for that. So take me through that. Like, what was going on at work that brought you into this spiritual awakening, and what happened on the other side of that?
Full burnout. When, speaking of trying to be everything I thought the lawyer was supposed to be, and trying to fit myself in that definition and act like what I thought other people wanted me to act like, that's exhausting. And doing that every single day, well, absolutely. Showing up, trying desperately to not be yourself is exhausting.
It's what I like to call being too well adjusted for your own good. Being able to be, you're smart enough to figure out how you need to be in order to accommodate everybody else's wants, needs, desires, while at the same time having been trained from the time you're a little kid to put all of your wants, needs, and desires somewhere back there. Maybe after you get to heaven, you'll be able to experience that, but certainly not in this realm.
Right. And there wasn't, at that time, I didn't even recognize a spiritual side or anything of that to me. I didn't have words for it. There wasn't a thing I was going against. It was just all this energy to be what this bucket of definition of a successful lawyer was. We were very customer facing, again, in the South, where customers' first question getting to know you is, what church do you go to? A lot of expectations there, and still trying to fit into that. Full burnout. My amazing husband that was just like, I want something better for you than is this.
What did full burnout look like to you?
To me, I got Bell's palsy.
That's right.
My face dropped.
Okay.
But also just, the little pieces of forgetting that my kids need to be picked up from school and melting down, whether that was with tears or anger twice a week, and not showing up to the dinner table because I was working around the clock and taking client calls at midnight, and getting sick, physically sick from that.
Okay. So with the Bell's palsy then, how did you address that's a major symptom that would tell me that your nervous system was completely
shot.
So what happened then?
I went to an acupuncturist first, strictly clinically. Then she sent me to someone else that was a little bit more energetic. And it really started adding up that maybe this isn't just clinical. Yes, it's manifesting clinical. But I think it was before that, because even being open to seeing those people, however it looked, it was bad enough that my ultra supportive husband, that his motto for me is, you do you, baby. Like, whatever I need, he's happy to help accommodate and support. He's like, you need something. And he found this retreat in the middle of the country somewhere at a Buddhist temple and was like, I want to try that. And so I did. And it was a really cool weekend that I got covered in chiggers. Do you know what chiggers are?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. You're from
Kansas. Yes, I'm well aware of chiggers.
Yeah.
You guys, if you don't know what chiggers are, they're little microscopic bugs that get on like your bra line and your underpants line, and then they itch for days.
Yeah, they like burrow.
It's like a
itch. It's like a flea meets a mosquito that sticks around.
I didn't know we would talk about chiggers, but here we are.
Here we are.
So you go to the Buddhist temple. You have this weekend experience. It's a silent retreat. How are you different when you leave, besides the chiggers?
I felt a level of peace and itching, but more peace than itching. That I'm like, I need more of wherever that came from, because I've never experienced that before. And it was hard. Hello, I like to talk.
I know. And you go to the silent retreats and like, you're not even allowed, as much as they can, to read. Like, they talk about how your eyes are even hungry for words. So you can't, like, it's just like very much custody of eyes, custody of voice. And so you experience this peace and then you come home.
And I wanted more.
So then what?
And that's weird to the outside. And so I had, at the time, I had a law partner and I had high level staff that, sometimes made more money than I did. So very high level, they had big opinions. All of these people want me to look a certain way for our client base. And I was ready to dive into more of that. I signed up for a yoga teacher training. I signed up for an Ayurvedic teacher training. I had no intention of teaching any of this. I just want to learn as much as, and I've since learned that I'm an Enneagram 5, which is the learner. I show up 8. I show up with this authority and extrovert, but I want to take it all in.
Well, on the Neo personality profile, I would guess that you score on about the 90th percentile or above on openness to experiences. Love of learning is one of those. And also challenging the status quo is another of those qualities. So yes.
Yeah. So I wanted all that. And that was met professionally with just don't do anything that our clients see it. Like, whatever you want to do in the background, but your whole job is to be this brand of this hyper professional attorney, and you're going to ruin it for all of us. That's kind of the takeaway I got. What the exact conversations were kind of sometimes milder, sometimes much more insanely heavy. But the average of it was, you're going to ruin this for everybody if people think you fell off the deep end and you're crazy now. Okay. is kind of the takeaway. And I think that's what so many professionals either fear or face when they're excited to learn and step into this very real part of themselves.
Yes. You said that some of the conversations were heavy. Can you take us through the turning point for you? Or that conversation is the most memorable one of them?
I think one was with my law partner. The heaviest was definitely with my law partner, and he felt he needed to speak for everyone. So we had the rest of our staff kind of coming to him being like, what on earth is wrong with Sarah? She's losing it. You need to reel her back in. And he very much took that authoritarian role of, I better reel her back in and get control of this. And so there was, I don't remember the words. It's been years ago. And, but it was very much a authoritative conversation of stop whatever you're doing. You can't do what you're doing. You're freaking people out. The clients will hate it. The clients will leave. We'll lose all the money. Our people that think you've gone crazy will leave. Like, you've got to cut it out, whatever this is. And it was an interesting conversation because I was like, you talk to the same psychic I talk to. You do these things. Oh. You introduced me to Ram Dass. What are you talking about? And he was like, well, it's different. It's different for me and you. The people don't have the same expectation that I need to show up in this certain way. But with our brand, the expectation is that you need to. I think the end of that conversation was just like a, fuck you, dude. Yeah. Like, seriously? I have to. And I think that's not unique to me, though. I think there is a different expectation of professional women to fit very cleanly in that box where professional men get more leeway to explore.
Yeah. I don't have anything to say about that because I think you've said it all. And I think that too, you can do what I do as long as it's behind the scenes.
Yes.
And keep it secret.
Keep it quiet. Yeah, keep it secret.
But you were keeping it secret. You weren't like practicing yoga in the break room.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
But I should have been able to if I wanted to.
What was going on with the Bell's palsy at that time? Had that cleared or was that still
active?
Had
not fully hit yet.
Okay.
That had not. And I do think that rub and that contrast led to, and more of feeling like I needed to, I was kind of fighting within on how much I wanted to break against the status quo and say, fuck you, dude, to anybody who may have had an opinion, and also believing that story that my income, my business's viability, my employees' viability depended on me not. So I was struggling with that a lot, and that probably led, I have to feel certain that led to that kind of coming to a head that much more aggressively.
So, all right. So let's get to this then. Off screen before we started talking, or off camera before we started talking, I mentioned religious trauma, which this very much has a flavor of that coming out of Oklahoma and the history that you had with the church, and then the messages around how you're supposed to be as a woman, how you're supposed to show up in the world, and also all of the things that were hands off to you. So when I say religious trauma, what occurs to you, or how do you understand that for you?
I understand that for me, that you are only good enough to the sense that you're meeting these very delicate measurements. I watched my church that completely held my family and did things for us and offered help when we didn't have food and wanted to just do so much to lift us up. As soon as my mom decided that the drug abuse and cheating was enough and went to divorce, we were out. You know, as long as she's an abused woman that's in this terrible situation, they'll lift up and help. But you break that, you decide for divorce, you're out. She was kicked out of her women's group. We were not as welcome in the extracurriculars. And it just felt like so delicate. And then it was always on the term of quoting Jesus, which I don't think were actual quotes. And I think, as I told you, I was like, and then it was always on this crux of who I now refer to as Oklahoma Jesus, because the Jesus that I can lean into now was super cool dude. But Oklahoma Jesus is a different Jesus than most people have. He is mad at you most of the time, and he wants bad things for you unless you fit this delicate balance. And really bad things will happen if you ask questions or try to go against the grain.
Were you concerned about that, like in the back of your mind, like your redemption or your salvation based on Was that a thing for you?
As a little girl, I had extreme anxiety. They thought it was GI problems. Insomnia at 5, 6 years old, because the church says, this is how they end church every day. If the roof caves in and you all die, will you go to heaven or not? Oh. And I'm talking like little bitty children's church. So roof caving in and everybody dying was a daily thought process. And so I would not be able to sleep because I'd be thinking, I probably sinned today. I probably did something that I forgot to ask forgiveness for. All roofs are going to cave. Apparently roofs are very, well, I mean, it's tornado alley, so maybe it could. But burning in hell was an absolute likelihood. And I took that on as curiosity and learning. At one point, I could have quoted the book of Revelation cover to cover. I was a Left Behind series girly. I wanted to know all of the things that could happen. But it just led back to shame, shame, shame. You're not going to be good enough. You're going to make this much a mistake. And everything's literally going to go to hell.
And everything hinges on you.
Yeah. Which I'm saying that with a smile because it sounds so ridiculous to say out loud.
Yeah.
But at the time it felt so true.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I wanted to get to today is that when I kind of tongue in cheek say it's time to come out of the spiritual closet, but then you have this very real lived experience where it is dangerous.
It feels that way, yeah.
And well, it probably didn't even feel that way. It probably literally was dangerous.
Yeah.
When we look at historically and like on a soul level, whether past lives or parallel lives or whatever, the witch wound, or just even generationally having the grandmothers and the women who were persecuted for, being the healers and the wise women and the witch burnings and everything. I mean, all of that kind of comes to mind for me as I hear your story. And so I just really want to, first of all, honor your courage for moving through that as you did. And we'll get to the other side of the story in a second, but I did want to bring that forward because I get tongue in cheek about stuff like this. I've been out of the closet for a really long time. And also it's still can be dangerous.
Yeah, it can. And even, if the threat is losing your business, losing your job, losing your livelihood, that's still a huge threat for people.
Sure.
Yeah.
It gets at the very core of safety and security and community, belonging.
For sure.
The very basic human needs that are so important are threatened.
Yeah.
Just by wanting to be yourself.
And then it's hard and near impossible when it comes to the psyche of it to move into creativity and building and doing those things that make you successful if you feel like those root chakra, those Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the foundation isn't there. It's near impossible to move into doing your best work.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Because we know that in order to be able to be your most creative and your most innovative, you have to feel safe. Mm-hmm. So how did you create the conditions for you to create this life that you have now? Based on all of that, what's the through line or the inflection point?
I threw it all away.
Tell us about that. How'd that happen?
And throw away is not fair. I had some divine intervention that really, I don't know that I would have been brave enough without it. For some other different reasons, my law partner and I, which I want to be intentional because he and I are friends. So all of this true, and I'm not sitting here 10 years later mad at him. He and I are friends, and all these things happened. But at that time, he and I were not getting along well. And in the middle of some argument, there was a threat that we should sell the business. And I've learned with myself, if I say we are never fill in the blank, then that thing is probably going to happen.
And very quickly.
Yeah, and quickly. I said, we are never selling the business. And not long after that, he came to me and he was like, I haven't earned your trust. I promise I have not been pitching the business for sale, but we have a potential buyer. And those were the kind of divine interventions that came in. That happened. My husband had an opportunity that we could move from Texas here to let me actually geographically pull away from all of those environments. And if you had met me in 2018, I was never going to be a lawyer again. I was retired. Lawyer means burnout. Lawyer means I have to be somebody I'm not. I don't want any of it. And I did truly spend a couple of years just doing yoga in my backyard.
I love that for you.
And coaching people on how they could build a business that is true to them. And I was like, oh, wait, I wonder if I listen to my own self. Wouldn't that be crazy? And I so intentionally, when I opened Rising Brand Legal, I so intentionally did it with, we're not taking any client that comes through the door. I'm not going to pretend to be anything that I'm not. I'm not going to hide any part of myself. If this will be successful, it's going to be successful 100% authentically me. And my clients who get on Zoom calls with me with my crystals and singing bowls behind me in view they either do not care or they love it even more. And it actually lets me really enjoy my work because I'm not wearing myself out just getting out of bed in the morning, just trying to figure out who I'm going to show up as.
Putting on your performative mask to go out into the world is exhausting.
Yeah.
And so through this all, the art of becoming yourself and expressing yourself fully as a yogi who is an attorney. And I wanted to ask you this, how has this whole journey informed how you protect your clients' intellectual property, how you work with and for them around their own creativity?
Yeah, it means that subconsciously, but so far in the forefront, I'm genuinely excited to talk to them. I'm genuinely excited to learn about what they do. That in contrast to if it's someone you're trying to be performative for and be stuffy around, you've got this low-key or high-key animosity. You're kind of pissed at them to start out. You don't care about what they're doing. Just let's get this over with. The contrast of that now is I'm having so much fun. I get to dive into these things. I get to really care about what they're building and use my skills as an attorney to legally protect it with trademarks, contracts, all of that. But I can do so much better by them when I genuinely want to dive into it with them, and they feel safe. They feel like they're getting such an authentic version of me. They feel safe really sharing. I'm not getting the clients anymore. They're like, you better not tell anyone this, or, I think there is also that subconscious subtle distrust when somebody meets with a professional and they're like, wait, but like, who actually are you?
Right. And you wear who you are on your sleeve now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about how, like, when we look at the energetics of the law and protecting our businesses, I think there's no bigger gift than to have an attorney who knows the law and who knows the energetics as well, who can read all of the layers of the multidimensional nature of a business and of a contract and so on. And so I'll bet your clients just love that about you, because you can see so much more than someone who's not integrated in them, in their expertise and their multidimensional codes.
Yeah, it makes for such a good fit, and it makes for when they've met with 5 attorneys, it's such a breath of fresh air when they feel like they can show up exactly how they are. I had a client recently that's starting a spiritual style retreat business, and meeting with an attorney that's going to be like, oh, what's that? Well, that doesn't sound like a business. This client had some of those experiences, so came to this call very guarded, not wanting to really share. And I was just like, listen, girl, I'm not the other lawyers you talk to. Just like, say all the words, say what it is. Let's actually dive into everything that you have. And it let her open up so much more. So it ends up with just like this really great relationship. And what I tell clients is like, you may find a better fit. Don't hire me if this doesn't feel like a great fit. Talk to other attorneys, but make sure they know and actually care about what you do for your business. If they do not understand your business, there's no way they can see the hidden corners of how to protect it, of the things that could be at risk to you. So don't compromise because they have the biggest skyrise building and the fanciest corner office. If that feels like a great fit, do that. But you don't have to compromise. There should never be shame. There should never be talking down to you. Whatever professionals you're working with should really care, and you should be safe to be open about what you do.
I love that. I have 2 more questions for you. One is, for the attorneys and the physicians and the engineers and all of us grown-up smart girls who are listening to you today, what advice or story do you have for us around staying grounded and staying yourself, being yourself during this process as you have integrated all of these beautiful aspects of you?
Yeah, I'm so grateful to feel like I have a lot of years still to just be whoever I am and who I evolved to in various seasons of my life. You're going to do it someday. You're absolutely going to become yourself someday. And I think a lot of people are like, when I retire, or when the kids are out of the house, or when this, and that, you will absolutely look back, and I don't want the fear of regret in anybody, but you'll look back and be like, what the hell was I so afraid of?
Right.
Yes, it feels dangerous. And in some settings, some corporate settings, something like that, there could be a level of actual danger, but it's just, don't lose those years of wearing yourself out to be somebody other than who you are. Because when I look back at the scared me and in those hard conversations and being afraid of how people are going to react, it's a similar wisdom to looking at a toddler that's really scared of something. And I wish I could talk to 25-year-old Sarah and be like, girl, it's fine. Just
go for it.
Just like, quit covering up the tattoo. You're fine. We're fine. They'll deal with it, or they won't.
It reminds me of this, that a lot of times I used to think this too, that if I'm awake, I should probably move up to Sedona and like do tarot card readings all day or something like that. But it turns out, for the experts, I don't think that we're meant to leave our professions behind.
Yeah.
I think it's about the integration and leading the way for the future of the field. I see you leading the future of law and doing it in a way that is beautiful and integrated and whole, and not leaving a part of yourself at home every single day. And that's what I hope I'm doing in psychology, and others like us are doing in their fields as well, because you and I both know that it's the magic happens when there's integration. But when you're still trying to be somebody for somebody else, or leave half of yourself at home, or do something on the side and perform and be too well adjusted, it's a disaster. And I think we're done with disasters. What do you think?
I think that's so yesterday's news. Stop with the disaster. And I agree with you. I've never thought of it until you said this, but if we separate ourselves from all of it and only open ourselves to be that example for someone else's weekend retreat, but then we expect them to integrate. I'm sure our lessons would tell them to go integrate this. And
for sure,
I agree, being leaders within that integration and not keeping the theme that being yourself is a weekend vacation. I'm here for it.
Oh, me too. I want to live in that world. What about you?
Let's make it. Let's do it.
Let's do. Where can they find you?
Hub is Instagram everything. So Instagram, my bio, at the lawyer Sarah, and then my bio link will take you to all of the things I do.
All right. So if you want to live in our world, find Sarah on Instagram, follow me on YouTube, leave us a review on your podcast platform, Apple or Spotify, and I will see you next time. I'm Dr. Robyn McKay.